Welcome. Even by the standards of Afghanistan, they are brutal attacks. The first was carried out by a suicide bomber on a motorbike. The second appears to have targeted the journalists who rushed to the scene. At least 25 people have been killed, among them the chief photographer for the AFP news agency in Kabul, Shah Murray. Hundreds of people have died in the Afghan capital since the start of the year, raising questions about the government's hold on the country. Well, let's speak live now to the Ambassador of Afghanistan to the UK, Said Jawad. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us here on the programme. The death toll continues to rise, including 8 journalists who were killed, and they actually rushed to the scene and then were targeted by a second attack.
Unfortunately, it may be 9 by now, including a woman, a very brave, actually, woman reporters. Yes, it is not only a brutal attack, it is a crime against humanity, purposefully targeting the Afghan journalist. We have had some intelligence report that a terrorist disguised as a reporter may attack, but we thought it would be a government institutions but purposefully targeting the journalist. This is the first time in Afghanistan, but the second time that someone actually pretending to be a journalist is carrying out a terrorist attack.
And that's what we're hearing, that he posed as a cameraman. Is it now the Islamic State that's claiming responsibility for this?
Yes, in this case, and also out of about 29 journalists that has been killed in the past 15 months, 26 of them were killed by ISIS, or ISIS claimed that they have done it. Only 2 are claimed by Taliban, and 1 is being investigated.
You know, this is a part of a spate of attacks that we've seen in Afghanistan since the beginning of the year. And what does it really say about the government's ability and that of the security forces to protect civilians, especially in a place like Kabul?
We were focusing a lot more on the countryside, and I think our security forces are doing a decent job in preventing Taliban to gain more foothold on the countryside. So they are not able to move in large formations on the countryside. Therefore, they are focusing more on soft target on civilians in big cities. We will continue to not only enhance the measures to improve the security in Kabul, but also to work with the journalists directly to provide awareness and to work with them directly to protect them in a more effective way.
Let's just go live to Kabul now, where we can speak to our reporter there. Thanks very much for joining us here on the programme. Just to update us, we're hearing that the death toll is rising and the number of journalists killed could be now 9.
That's true, yeah. One of the journalists who got injured just passed away half an hour ago, Sabaun Kakar, from a local radio in Kabul. So now we've got 9 journalists killed and 7 journalists injured. The total number of casualties, 26 people killed and around 40 people injured. It's the attack has been one of the biggest one on journalists in Afghanistan in the last 16 years. This is the first time that 9 journalists are dying in this attack, and the Afghan Journalist Union has released a statement, asked the International Criminal Court, the UN Security Council, to look at this case and to follow up on this and see what sort of help they are providing. The journalist community of Afghanistan is very, very worried. I was just there. I was talking to many journalists, and they're thinking that they've been directly targeted, and it will certainly affect this big achievement of freedom of expression in Afghanistan and the situation of media in Afghanistan.
And Zia, this attack was in Kabul, but we're also hearing about attacks in Kandahar as well today on a NATO convoy, which left a number of children dead.
That's true, yeah. A NATO convoy was targeted in Kandahar, and a few people, including civilians and children, have been killed in that attack as well.
Okay, Zia, we'll have to leave it there. That was the BBC's Zia Shahryar. We'll come back to the Afghan ambassador now. I mean, what's most alarming, and I know that ISIS has claimed responsibility for this particular attack, but actually the Afghan government, Ashraf Ghani, has reached out to the Taliban and said, look, come to the negotiating table, let's talk peace, and there are no conditions. Where does it leave those sorts of discussions when we see these sorts of attacks on a daily basis in Afghanistan?
It makes it much difficult for the government to strengthen the national consensus on peace and reconciliation when you see such a severe attack. But our efforts will continue, and also starting a peace negotiation and peace process is not like a switch that you can turn on and off. It is a long process, and throughout this process there will be increased pressure military by our forces, and also there will be actually attacks by Taliban. So on the long run, it will not impact actually the aim of finding actually a peaceful resolution. But on the short term, the anger of the people, the frustration of the people weakened the national consensus on going forward and trying to reach out actually a peace settlement with the Taliban. That's why Taliban are opening also the door by claiming that's ISIS. ISIS is a questionable issue in Afghanistan.
Indeed. And of course, this just comes just 10 days after a number of people were killed trying to register to vote. So really, the instability in the country and any attempts to create an environment where people can actually prepare for parliamentary elections as well.
Well, the terrorists naturally attack the civic organizations. They attack people who are registering to vote, to build a new Afghanistan. They're attacking the journalists, which are an important component, an organization, individual that we're very proud of. These were the best sons and daughters of Afghanistan that were killed today. So they are purposefully targeting, and especially being the World Freedom Press Week starting today, they know that they get a lot of attention globally also by doing this. But also they'll get a lot of condemnation. This is a crime against humanity. It has to be prosecuted, as the Afghan journalists are properly demanding.
Ambassador, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us here on the programme.